It's been called the most dangerous volcano in the world, and it lies just beneath one of Italy's most popular tourist destinations. And now scientists are warning that Campi Flegrei may be getting ready to blow. So what exactly is happening beneath the surface, and why should you care? When people think of volcanoes, they usually picture something like Mount Vesuvius, an iconic cone-shaped mountain with molten lava oozing down its slopes. But Campi Flegrei doesn't look anything like Vesuvius. In fact, it doesn't even look like a volcano at all. Instead, it looks like a big crater with a lake in the middle. Well, that's because this volcano is actually an enormous caldera. A caldera is formed when a magma chamber gets emptied out in a volcanic eruption. And unlike stratovolcanoes like Mount Vesuvius, which can build up over hundreds or thousands of years, calderas can form in just a matter of days. Just imagine a giant pot of water boiling on the stove. If you remove the lid too quickly, the steam will escape so quickly that it creates a partial vacuum inside the pot, and the water will get sucked right down into it. That's kind of what happened with Campi Flegrei. About 39,000 years ago, there was a massive eruption here that emptied out the magma chamber below and created a huge depression. The caldera stretches about 13 kilometers from north to south and 18 kilometers from east to west. That's big enough to fit almost 20 American football fields, and it's nearly 500 meters deep. Now, since then, the caldera has filled with water, and over the last few thousand years, various small lakes have formed within it. The largest of these lakes is called Lake Avernus. It takes up about 2/3 of the caldera and has no outlet. Despite this, its water level never changes. As a result, scientists have long assumed that the lake is actually connected to the sea. Just offshore, this is probably thanks to underground channels created by the original cataclysmic eruption, but we didn't know that for sure until recently. In 2020, researchers used sonar to map the bottom of the lake and found a series of underwater caves connected to the sea just a few hundred meters away. They also drilled a few holes through the lake bed and found seawater at depths of up to 60 meters below the surface. Now, seawater filling up the caldera isn't exactly surprising. What's weird is that the water in the lake hasn't mixed with the seawater at all. Scientists collected samples from the lake and analyzed their chemistry, which revealed that the water is very young, less than 2,000 years old. This means that the entire volume of the lake has been completely replaced only twice in the last 2 millennia, and it looks like each replacement happened at the same time as a minor eruption. In fact, the lake itself might be the reason that Campi Flegrei has remained dormant for so long. You see, all volcanoes need gas. They need gas to lower the viscosity of their magma, allowing it to flow and erupt. But Campi Flegrei's magma is so far down beneath the lake that it's not able to get much gas from the surrounding rocks. As a result, the magma chamber below the lake is like a big balloon that's slowly being inflated but can't expand. And to make things even worse, the weight of the water in the lake compresses the magma, increasing the pressure. So instead of building up an eruption, this pressure actually stops the magma from erupting. But that's just a temporary solution. Eventually, the magma chamber will fill up again and erupt, sending the magma upwards and the water in the lake into the air. And when this happens, Campi Flegrei won't just be a big tourist attraction. It could become the site of one of the most violent eruptions in recorded history. That's because Campi Flegrei is actually a supervolcano. We define a supervolcano as any volcano that's capable of producing an eruption with an index of 8 on the Volcanic Explosivity Index, or VEI. For reference, Mount St. Helens, which erupted in 1980, had an index of 5, while Mount Vesuvius had a VEI of 6. But Campi Flegrei is capable of a VEI of 7 or higher. Now, the highest actual VEI ever recorded was 8, and that was the 1815 eruption of Mount Tambora in Indonesia. It led to a 3-year-long volcanic winter and killed tens of thousands of people. Eruptions of this size happen once every couple of 100,000 years, and they change the climate around the world. Even though Campi Flegrei hasn't erupted since the Bronze Age, we don't really know if it's going to blow again in a couple of thousand years or in a couple of centuries. For most of history, scientists assumed that the caldera had been completely empty for thousands of years, But that changed in the early 1980s. Starting in 1982, the ground began to bulge in the middle, and scientists realized that there was magma rising from deep within the Earth. Since then, the bulge has grown by several meters, and there's a lot of pressure building up below Campi Flegrei. Right now, the magma chamber is about half full, and the pressure from the water in the lake is keeping the magma from erupting. But researchers have noticed that the pressure from the magma is slowly overcoming the pressure from the water. And when the magma pressure wins, Campi Flegrei is going to blow. Unfortunately, the thing that keeps track of this ratio is called the Fugro-Flegrei monitor. It was built back in the 80s and isn't very accurate, so nobody knows exactly how close we are to the tipping point. But some experts believe that it could come at any time, and others think we have at least another century before the next eruption. But the good news is that even though an eruption would be devastating, scientists would see it coming. There are plenty of signs that give us hints as to when the next eruption might occur. For example, the ground would likely begin to bulge again. We'd start to see more earthquakes in the area, and the lake might even start to steam. All of this gives people time to evacuate and hopefully avoid disaster. The hard part is making sure that everyone follows those evacuation orders, which brings us back to the present day. Recently, residents living near Campi Flegrei have begun to notice more and more steam coming off the lake. Does this mean that an eruption is imminent? Well, not necessarily. You see, steam is produced whenever magma heats up the groundwater. And while an increase in steaming could indicate that the magma chamber is getting full, there's another explanation. There are hot springs all over the world that produce tons of steam without the threat of an eruption. That's because some groundwater just gets superheated by the Earth's core, creating steam pockets in the rock. It's possible that some of this is what we're seeing at Campi Flegrei, or alternatively, the steam could be coming from the underwater caves. Researchers recently discovered that some of these caves contain pools of boiling water. So, could Campi Flegrei blow in the next few weeks or months? Not likely. Eruptions don't just happen overnight. There are always precursors that tell us an eruption is coming. And while we haven't seen much activity yet, scientists are continuing to monitor the volcano closely. If anything does happen, it won't be the end of the world, but it would definitely be a major disruption to air traffic in Europe. Ash from the eruption could spread across the continent, disrupting travel and industry. While evacuating the area would be relatively easy, the rest of the world would feel Campi Flegrei's wrath in other ways. We don't really know what the global effects would be, but we do know that disruptions to international travel would send prices skyrocketing. So here's hoping that Campi Flegrei doesn't erupt anytime soon. Speaking of skyrocketing, I hope your subscription to Wendover Productions did too. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.